Welcome to Watching the Throne.
A lyrical analysis of the world's most richest bachelor, Kanye West. I guess that's not true.
Yeah, well,
Elon Musk isn't married to anybody.
Oh no, that's very true. So yeah,
Automatically not
quite.
true.
And then
The world's coolest bachelor.
And then Ye's still not officially divorced. Anyway, my name's Chris Lambert.
And my name's Travis Bain. And that's true. I guess, can you be a bachelor if you're still married? I mean, he went out with Farina Shayk. Kim is supposedly dating Pete Davidson. So I guess Kanye's kind of a bachelor, right?
Yeah, I think at that point, if you're like dating other people, yes, you're eligible. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to show up Pete Davidson. You got to get out there and play the game.
It still blows my mind. It's
pretty bizarre.
I like Pete too. I know there's like a very vocal group of people that are like, I don't like Pete. And it's like, I can see that. And then he has had the high profile relationships, which, always brings some negative attention to anyone that's getting that kind of like publicity and spotlight. The thing that just kind of bothers me a little bit is like, I'm kind of a firm believer in the basic rules of post breakup. What is it? The rules of like a post breakup, where essentially that if you were the person that did the breaking up with, you shouldn't be trying to date anyone that has ties to the person you broke up with. And if you have ties to the person that got broken up with, you shouldn't be dating the person that did the breaking up with, And the fact that Pete has had previous times with Ye and Kim, and I know that he wasn't like best friends with Kanye, but at least like spend enough time with both of them, it just feels like a little disrespectful to me, as opposed to if she was just dating any other random person that was kind of just outside of the circle of people you knew when you were still together.
Yeah, maybe I haven't been involved in enough relationship stuff for these rules to cement. I say date whoever the hell you want. Pete Davidson's cool. Date Pete. Seems like a funny guy.
It was in college during like the fraternity days, right? You'd have people that are like dating people, breaking up with people. You're in this world of like close connections of relationships forming and failing, and what are the rules of it all in this fast-paced world of Case Western Reserve University dating?
Definitely not the case of me. No. I'm very glad to report that none of my friends ever got with each other, and that was nice.
Yeah, no, that was the thing. Like, a guy might do that and you're like, hey man, not cool. Or someone that the guy dated would try to do that and you'd be like, hey, you broke up with him. You can't go like dating like anyone in this hallway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so Kanye, stay for Chris's sake, stay away from anybody Kim's ever been in contact with. Okay. Like, don't do it. Because Chris is going to have to chastise you here on the show.
Yes. It's an exaggeration, but yes. Your point made, though.
Oh, Lord. Lord, we need you today for this song. Come on.
Yes. Steer us in the right direction, which is talking about track 20. Wow. Are we already up to track 20? Look at that. Only 3 more to go already. After this. It's just months later, we're at song 20. Yeah.
Is it only 20? Wow.
Coming after Television, which we talked about Television essentially being an important transition. I'm blanking on the word. It's not snippet. It's not song. It's an interlude.
Like an important. Yeah, it's an interlude. It's like an accent on the record that really drives home this idea of reaching someone who's speaking to us from beyond, like Pop Smoke, who died from gun violence, is here in this album, and there's a connection formed with him.
Right, the same way with having DMX on Life of the Party, the same way that the album's dedicated and named after Donda, and having her Donda up here, features her on the song Donda. You're getting this kind of conversation that takes place between the world of the living and like the heavens,
Right.
which is kind of nice, and taking inspiration from the words of people that you love that are no longer here with us, and finding comfort in their presence, even if it's presence in the past, right?
Right.
And Television really captures a lot of that while getting at some of the major themes of the album, connecting us back to Jonah and Keep My Spirit Alive and Jesus Lord.
Jesus Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, so these very important songs on the album and really tying into that. And it also is the bridge between this fourth arc that went from Donda through Television, that was kind of kickstarting himself. Like his spirit is getting back to the place that it needs to be, when it was kind of torn between the influence of these devils and demons and the angels on the other side. He's finally kind of gotten away and kicked the devils and the demons into who are the would have been better had I remembered the Spartan. He like Spartan kicked the devils and the demons into
Gerard
the big
Butler.
pits. Yeah, good old Gerard Butler. And so Keep My Spirit Alive is really him like finding himself again, right? In a way that he didn't have earlier on the album. So you have that arc from Donda, Keep My Spirit Alive, Jesus Lord, New Again, and now it's Tell the Vision. Like you need to make sure you go out there and tell the vision, let people know how it goes, like show them like how important this stuff is, like show them. And then Lord, I Need You is really taking a very mature and thoughtful approach to things that earlier on the album he had kind of been a little more like dismissive of, short-tempered
Believe
of.
what I
like,
say.
yeah, you think about Jail, you think about some of how he talked about things on Hurricane, which he had some like mature moments on Hurricane, but like Believe What I Say was very antagonistic. And then you get to something like Lord, I Need You, where he's taking such a sobering look at what was going on in his relationship and just where things are at with Kim and remembering things with Kim. That then leads into Pure Souls, which is also very like uplifting and mature and coming with this new energy that then leads to Come to Life, which is also like real heavy. It's not as uplifting as Pure Souls is, but there's something very cathartic about it, something that feels very matured about it. It's somebody that's processed a lot of their own behaviors and a lot of what's going on, and is having this moment of awakening, this moment of thoughtfulness that is setting up then the finale of the album, which is No Child Left Behind.
Yeah. I mean, Tell the Vision and Lord, I Need You are a great 1-2 punch in a way when you think about the structure of the album, because you have that first part of the album where, as you just discussed, Kanye's very antagonistic, both towards people in the community and people in the hip hop industry, like namely Drake, and, you know, people in his life like Kim and Believe What I Say. But then you have that middle portion of the album from 24 to Heaven to Hell where he gives up control to God. And so this latter half of the album, we're seeing him really maneuver in that space of being somebody who's stripped away the ego and is ready to make amends and be at peace and connect with people here on earth. And that's what makes Tell the Vision so poignant, is all this talk earlier about going after guys in the midst of other people speaking on gun violence and all the harm it does in the world, to suddenly have Pop Smoke featured on this record who died from gun violence. Like, it's trying to make this connection with somebody from beyond. But now Lord, I Need You is him trying to make a connection with somebody here, with somebody who is no longer really part of his life. Not in the same way anyway. I'm sure they'll be fine. Kim and Kanye will be fine, but she's not his wife anymore. So it's I think that's a cool transition to go from Pop Smoke, who isn't here, to Kim, who is here, but you've lost. Like, things have happened in your life, the decisions you've made, the choices you've made have led to this moment where like you've lost somebody. And that's a huge part of this album, is just loss, whether it's from beyond, like people you've lost permanently in your life that, or you won't see again until you go to heaven. And then people here on earth, and the people here on earth, like, how do you make the most of it? Because you know you would make the most of it if your mom was still here. So what can you do here with Kim? And this song becomes a reflection on that, and Kanye thinking about that, and thinking about what led to their separation, and like how he's at fault, how she's at fault, how like they were going different directions, and then B, what do you do moving forward? Like, what is your relationship now? And this song kind of sets the tone that Kanye wants things to be good. Like he still loves her, he still wants it to be amicable, and it's all part of that Kanye giving up control and moving forward and finding a better space to be in.
You talk about that movement too of the connection that you have with people that have passed, and then taking that perception to the connection that you have with people that are still here but are out of your life for whatever reason. Like, you know, Kim and Ye will never have the same relationship again that they had before. Like, it's gone in a way, and they're just trying to make the most, as you're saying, of what they still can have and have together. You know, being parents to the 4 kids that they have, having an amicable relationship, maybe even a friendship. We know that they've like gone and gotten lunch together at times. They've like spent time together, so things seem good. But it's also going another degree lower than that, or there's another layer added onto that, which is then the relationship that you have with yourself when you're still here in this physical plane of existence. And I think you start to see that come forward a bit. So it's not just the relationships that you have with the people that you've lost, or the relationships that you have with like the industry and your peers, or even your loved ones that you've struggled with, but also the relationship that you have with yourself, where you have the lines like trying to do the right thing with the freedom that you gave me on this song. Pure Souls is all about Kanye himself feeling like pretty refreshed and reborn. And then on Come to Life, you have that last line being, when I'm free, I'm free. And, you know, what is Ye going to do now that he has this new perception on things, this new freedom? How is he going to treat himself? How is he going to treat others? So that that interpersonal dynamic with the self is also a huge part of this.
Man, that's a great point. You kind of forget that the past 3 records in particular have been very self-contained. Yeah. Like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, and especially The Life of Pablo, it's Kanye kind of learning to be part of something, you know, like giving himself up to somebody. I mean, The Life of Pablo is all about him moving on from the big booty model life and ready to be a husband and have a wife and have kids. But Ye, Kids See Ghosts, and Jesus is King, like, I mean, especially Ye, thinking that the first song is I Thought About Killing You, the song he's seen in the you is himself, like this other part of himself that he's had trouble like merging with for so long. Like he's felt like 2 individuals for so long, and he needs to learn to become whole. That's been a huge struggle for him. And Jesus is King, this connection with God, was suddenly his way of doing it, of finding that inner peace. So on this record where there are so many features and he's talking about so many different topics, politics, society, gun violence, all these people in his life, like, I feel like you can forget, maybe I have, that like ultimately this record is about himself. Like none of the relationships in your life can be good. You can't truly make this connection with your mom until you're at peace with yourself and you're in a good spot here in your mortal body. So that's a great point. And that's a big part of the ending. You're right here. I mean, I'm looking at the line now. Man, I don't know what I would do without me. Like that has been such a struggle for Kanye. Like I think he's had trouble, especially after the St. Pablo tour, and thinking about how he was scared to embrace who he was. That's really important for Kanye to he needs himself there. Like he needs that version of Kanye to drive him and to create change for the good and make music that inspires people. It's all important, and Kim inspires in him whether they're together or not. And recognizing that here at the end of their marriage, as he moves into these last 3 songs, you're right, where I mean, Pure Souls, Come to Life, like the titles of the songs themselves seem to get at that idea. It's all part of the personal journey.
Yeah. Yep. Ultimately, everything is, right?
Yeah.
Even this show is about your personal journey and my
We're
personal
not dissecting
journey.
Kanye's lyrics. We're dissecting ourselves.
just through Kanye. We're giving y'all a insight into us, which is what we know you want. And then what are the interesting like background details on this song dating back to the first Donda track list that Ye posted, and shout out to the Donda track list tracker. It has the song inclusion comparison sheet where you can see all of the songs from the very first track list and then how other songs emerged over time. But it kind of like tracks right from track list 1 that was posted on July 18th of 2020 to tracklist 2, which was posted on the 20th, to the third one, which was posted on the 21st, and the fourth one that was posted on the 24th, and the 21st, and the fifth one that was posted on the 21st, and the sixth one that was posted on the 21st. My goodness. That one night where he just posted like 4 different track lists was really funny.
That's the Kanye journey.
It's one of those things where you can see it. It's like all the track lists from there, and then starting in 2021, the whiteboard with Tyler, the Vegas listening party, the whiteboard with Cardi, the yellow notepad, Atlanta listening party, Atlanta whiteboard, the rehearsal at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the listening party 2, the Chicago listening party, and then the first official track list. You have a few songs that got named 13 times, which a couple being 14, God Breathed and Praise God were the 2 that made it the most onto every track list. But second most, you had Off the Grid, Keep My Spirit Alive, and where was I getting at with Lord I Need You? Oh, Lord I Need You came in at 11. So that in 24, made it the third most times. So Lord I Need You is definitely conceptually part of this album from the very first track list, which is interesting then, because you wonder what the lyrics would have been like.
Yeah, right.
Because it feels like some of these were very recent. Like this was a song that definitely got re-looked at before the second listening party, because it didn't premiere during the first listening party. It wasn't played in Vegas. It was one that made its like first public appearance at the second listening party. So I do wonder what some of the earliest versions of this song looked like, especially at one point when it was titled Lord We Need You.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the Genius pages for all the different versions of these songs, like the little snippets we have Donda saying why Kanye ain't scared, which is somehow mixed with the line, when you said give you a ring, you really meant a ring, huh? And then you have Bree, is it Babanu? I should have looked this up.
Oh yeah, I did it. Babanu? I would think Babanu.
Yeah. The song she sings that they're interpolating for the finalized version of Lord I Need You. And then on another version, you get the Wheezy Outta Here tag. Pusha T's on there, St. John's on there. It's all really random. It kind of just feels like the final version merged all of these weird random versions together to come up with what it was. I mean, Lord I Need You, that title, the Bree Babanu song, like that feels like it must have been the inspiration for everything, and it kind of just like sprouted out from that, right? Like Wrap Your Arms Around Me, Lord I Need You, like those ideas go together. So like it all stemmed from this, and whatever direction Kanye took it must have just been wherever he was at that point in his life. And at this point in his life, he's getting divorced from Kim, so he somehow made that connection.
Yeah, which, like, to give some context to that, in the Brie Babineau song, she keeps saying, Lord, make me over, make me over, make me over, make me over. I need a brand new start. I can't be the same way. Create me in a clean heart. Renew the right spirit in me. Please don't pass me by. And then eventually says, won't you just wrap your loving arms around me? And there is one point where Kanye wrote, Lord, I need you around me. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of this idea of like, okay, maybe it's that like, wrap your loving arms around me. I need you around me. And then Lord, I need you in the chorus that we finally got was, Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me. But in some of those other versions, like the one that has Pusha T and St. John and even Future.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't see those lines specifically. It's just like St. John during the bridge saying, starting to feel like you ain't been happy for me lately, which we're like, okay, that's part of that's part of the puzzle. And then what? Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me. Yeah, that's the Brie Babineau one. When was this from?
Well, she did that. So Brie Babineau, that song is, there's a longer version of that song that's more of a cover of a Tonex song.
What?
Tonex? Oh, you don't know this? Okay.
No.
So she has a song called "Make Me Over," which is essentially that version of YouTube you can find of her singing the song.
Okay.
There's like a regular version of the song. It's fully produced and has a band and choir and everything. And that's a cover of a Tonex. Sorry, I don't know.
Spell it.
It's Tonex, and the E has an accent on it.
Tonex.
Yeah. So, but basically,
wow.
they're both gospel singers, and she's covering this gospel song. And then there's a YouTube video of her singing the song again, but adding more to it. And she's saying those lines like, "Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me." She's expanding on the song a little bit and ad-libbing a bit and giving it more heart in this like live setting, which is just in like her bedroom or something. So I actually am curious if Kanye if they are interpolating this. I'm sure they are, because the video has a lot of views. So like, it's well known enough that Kanye's probably seen it, and that's what they're interpolating. And if they are interpolating it, I guess it's probably because like when you watch her sing it live, it has a lot more heart. It feels more real. It's not just like some song. It's something she's really professing and commenting on, saying she needs the Lord to wrap her arms around her. And that live setting, I think, kind of fits with this song. We're talking about a very real situation.
I forgot this was a thing. Now that you mention it, I looked it up, and I remember seeing this right in the aftermath, but I was so tired that I completely ignored it. But yeah, Kanye's Donda album. So what? It's Brie Babineau's accusation that Kanye sampled her "Make Me Over" ad-libs without her knowledge. It's had gospel folk talking. So in a since deleted Instagram post, and I'm getting this from premiergospel.org.uk, in a since deleted Instagram post, Brie shared, "Thank you to everyone who congratulated me on the Donda album. However, I had no knowledge of this beforehand. It would have been nice to know before the album came out. Shake my head. Who does that voice sound like to y'all? Hashtag Donda." And that's when Tonex, or Tone, currently known as B-Slade, took to Twitter in turn to accuse Babineau of not crediting him for a YouTube cover of his song. And he said, "But you didn't call me to clear your version of the song that was sampled, though." Shrug emoji. "You were discovered by doing a rendition of a song that I 100% wrote. That I wrote 100%.
Wow.
So Kanye stole nothing because he came to the rightful owner of the song legally. Let's all be clear here." So it turns out, yeah.
The interesting part about that, though, is the "wrap your arms around me" part is not in the Tonex song. So yes, maybe technically Kanye then only has to pay Tonex because it's his song that she's covering, but what they're interpolating on "Lord, I Need You" is Brie Babineau's version of it. All right, that's bizarre.
Yeah, that's really...
I say pay them both
really
out. I mean, you're
strange.
Kanye West. You're rich. Just give them both some credit on this.
Man, well, she ended up responding to B-Slade, who's like, I love that his @ is B-Slade now, as in like, yeah, I'm B-Slade now.
I like that. It's easier to say than the other name.
Right? It's getting back to me that, so Bree said, "It's getting back to me that I'm saying the song is mine. Not once did I say that 'Make Me Over' is my song. 'Make Me Over' has always been a song from Tonex. When I'm saying he sampled my stuff, I'm saying he sampled my ad-lib, not 'Make Me Over.' People are sending me crazy messages. You can send me crazy messages all you want. My life is still blessed over here. I'm not trying to be malicious. I'm not trying to be catty or ugly about the situation. I'm just saying that I didn't know about it. He used an ad-lib. It's my ad-lib. Inflections verbatim the same way." So
wow, this is not very Christ-like behavior, all this infighting going on in the gospel community.
or if I've learned anything from my friends that go to church, it is.
Okay. Oh, yeah. You're right. They do it all the time.
There seems to be a lot of drama going on. Okay. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, that's a whole thing.
I don't want to put ourselves in the middle of this too much, but if Kanye West, Brie Babineau, and B Slade all want to come in this show and hash it out live in the air, like, we will be happy to mediate it.
Could you just imagine? It's like, well, I mean, I get her point. It is her ad lib.
Yeah,
but
totally.
I also get his point that if you want, like, if you're upset that somebody didn't credit you or acknowledge you, then why didn't you credit me or acknowledge me when you did the cover? And then it's the argument of like, do you actually need to get permission from that person when it's just a cover and you don't know how popular it's going to be versus putting out an album and you're already a huge superstar?
Right. Yeah. As I say, Brie Babineau, she's not nobody. She's like she's one of the biggest names in like contemporary gospel. So she probably should credit him.
Wait. Oh. So that's not how she got discovered, was that song?
I don't know enough about her. I doubt she got discovered from this song. No.
Okay. That's what Slade was accusing her of.
Oh, you mean from Lord I Need You?
No. From her cover of...
No, I think she was pretty big from the get-go, and I think she had music before then, like probably 2014, I think I read.
Okay. And that cover was 2017?
This isn't a lyrical analysis of Brie Babineau. This is a lyrical analysis of Kanye West.
Oh, yeah. It started in 2014 when she was nearly 20 years old as she started posting her own recordings on YouTube. In April of 2015, after receiving attention from a broad audience for her singing skills, Brie announced that she would be signing with Ty Scott Records. Up to date, Brie has released 3 albums: Keys to My Heart in 2016, The Encounter in 2020, and The Encounter Continues live in 2021.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
We spent like 10 minutes talking about this.
I know. All right. So all of that, just all of that in there. There's a strange history to this song. And I guess apparently to the release of the song, there's even more history being made. But in terms of talking about the sample that's used, it's the Make Me Over from Brie Babineau. As we talked about the lyrics, you should hopefully have already put them in context to what we were saying earlier about this portion of the album, as Ye has been on this journey in the last arc to really renew himself, refresh himself, start again, be made new again. Like, new again isn't the moment that Kanye is made new again, but it's him asking, like, I want to be made new again, like, make me new again, make me new again. And here you get that similar message applied. I need a brand new start. I can't be the same way. Create in me a clean heart, renew the right spirit in me, which is really fitting that the song following this is now Pure Souls. Right? Yeah. Like, my soul has been purified. I am made new again. My heart is clean. Like, my heart is ready. I need your blessing. I need your blessing. I'm just going back to the Brie Babineau or the B Slade lyrics now. But having that, I'm ready to receive and make me over again. Lord, I'm ready to receive, make me over again. Feels very in line with like make me new again being repeated. Right. Which is just right before Tell the Vision. So it feels like this is Ye really like putting his ducks in order. Is that putting his ducks in a row?
Sure. Yeah.
Like finalizing things, like kind of writing the final chapter and closing the book a little bit on he and Kim before he's moving on to the next stuff in his life.
Yeah. And he needs the Lord to wrap his arms around him. Like, it's a trying time in his life. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like to be with someone you love for that long and then to like start anew. Like, you have this chance, especially after you've like rediscovered yourself and you're looking to like stay focused and create change and stay connected with God. Like, this idea of, Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me seems very fitting for this moment.
Yep. And that's how it starts, right? Just like comfort me, like maintain me. It also feels very similar to Hurricane, right? Where during the refrain of Hurricane, we had The Weeknd, as I moderate my tone to give myself time for the page to load, saying,
as you get your ducks in order.
Yeah, that's right. See this in 3D. All lights out for me. All lights out for me. Lightning strikes the beach. 80 degrees. Finally free. Found the God in me. And I want you to see I can walk on water. 1,000 miles from shore. I can float on water. Father, hold me close. Don't let me drown. So it's like you start to feel good. You walk out on this water and you're like, look at me. I can like float. I can walk on water. Oh no, I'm drowning. Like, Father, hold me close. And it's like in those moments that like fear starts to come, in those moments where like you think you might drown, you turn to the Lord to like hold you close. So him saying like, I need you to wrap your arms around me. Like, I feel like you could start to say like, okay, this is part of the hurricane he's been in, and he's like getting that comfort from God as he's working his way out of the storm. Shout out Reborn.
That's a great way of looking at it. If you now I'm thinking again about the structure of the album and how at the beginning of the album there, he's very antagonistic, aggressive, but also a lot of that antagonism is just coming from fear that, I'm losing all these people in my life. Like, the world's at odds with each other. My mom's gone. Like, what do I do? I need the Lord here to save me. I'm drowning. To compare that to something like Remote Control in the middle of the album, where he's kind of transitioning and he's giving him up the reins a little bit. And he says to God, like, God, just please grab my hand. He had a bigger plan. Like, he's realizing he needs to just like let God guide the way and not like command God's presence. And now here it's more of this, it's very sincere. Like, it feels very intimate. Like, Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me. Like, that carries such a different energy than either Hurricane or Remote Control. It's this moment where he needs comfort from God because like this is so difficult,
Yeah, I think that there's just like a different energy in the production too. It's not like I'm drowning. It's just like, hey, give me some strength as I do this thing. Like, wrap your arms around me. And we get that line, I give up on doing things my way, which we've talked about several times. And you bring up Remote Control, which was the thing I was just about to do specifically, right? We talk about how in the intro, like, Ye's just kind of indulgent, like, please don't ask again who's up in the van. They my only fans, which has the implication of like, he's just kind of like messing around with some groupies in a van. And he's like, I was in my hovercraft, had another laugh. How you roll with them when you know I'm him. There's just like some ego, some like carefree indulgence, which is getting back to some of the sinfulness that we saw on The Life of Pablo, or even like Graduation, Jesus. It's that indulgent lifestyle. And you have that then contrast with, well, on my Instagram, it get out of hand. Why you so mad? Which is also getting at that kind of like, I'm misbehaving. Like, I might be on my Instagram and it's like upsetting Kim. There's some like bad behaviors going on here, which then set up the transition of he got it on Remote Control. I was in my hovercraft floating down the path. God just grabbed my hand, had a bigger plan. So it's like, I was just like fucking around, right? I'm in my hovercraft, I'm floating, I have no cares in the world. And God just took the remote control from me. Like, I had the remote control, I felt like a CEO, but then God like took the remote control, grabbed my hand, had a bigger plan, and started to steer Kanye in the direction that Kanye really needed to go. And now we're getting this part where he's just like willingly saying, I give up on doing things my way. Like, you grab my hand, like, you can have the remote control. I've clearly been getting in my own way. Like, my way is not working. So please, like, wrap your arms around me and like guide me.
Yeah, it's the only way for his soul to be made pure, for him to truly come to life, to be ready for this next step, is giving himself over completely to God, which in the wake of a divorce, when you've lost pretty much the most important person in your life, like, now you have God, like, you have this relationship is key and central to your life now. So,
yep. And tell me everything's going to be all right. Right. Oh,
man,
like, such an emotional, like, comfort me.
I guess I hadn't thought of that. And I almost like hesitate saying, because this is a song about him moving on from this woman he loved, who he's very intimate with. And now he's kind of recreating that intimacy with God, like, not in the same way, obviously, like it's nothing romantic about it, but he now needs to find that relief and comfort through something else, and I guess God's there to do that.
Yeah, I mean, typically, people like turn to their significant other when they've had like a problem and be like,
Right.
you know, tell me things are going to be all right. Or in the wake of a relationship failing, you might turn to family, you might turn to friends and hope that somebody's going to tell you it'll be all right. But now God is this person for Ye, providing the comfort.
Yeah, especially, you know, his mom's gone, and now like the mother figure here on Earth is gone. Like God becomes crucially important.
The father figure.
Yeah, that's right. Although his dad's here.
His dad is here, but God's closer, kind of.
God's always there, so you're technically right.
All around us. As I'm just pointing to everywhere in my room. Okay, so then we get to the verse. When you said give me a ring, you really meant a ring, huh? So you're getting the double entendre. Like when you said give me a ring in terms of like, you know, call me sometimes, it really meant like marry me.
Yeah, right.
So just kind of like covering, it's a clever way to cover the beginning of their relationship and how it escalated to marriage.
Man.
All in like a few words.
I love a good like corny Kanye song, like where he's just like singing the wifey. I know it's kind of like a cliche thing to do, like make a song about your wife or your mom or whatever, but like every time Kanye's done it, it's been awesome. And the beginning part of this verse, man, it gives me the feels because we've been in it the whole time. Like Kim and Kanye have been together. Like how crucial Kim was to Kanye becoming whole again and like being on the right path and finding what he needed in the wake of his mom's death. I don't know. It's also sad though because they're not. Yeah. I don't know. The song gives me all the feels.
I mean, and you can track that journey if you're not like, well, I wasn't following all the news. Like I'm a newer Kanye fan. Just go and listen to the discography, right, and see where Ye is getting to. Because like we talk about this all the time, but College Dropout, he's like new to fame and excited. Late Registration, he's already saying like, oh, I don't know if fame's gonna be everything that I hoped it would be. And then Graduation, the fame is starting to corrupt him. And that's before his mom passed. Everybody talks about like his mom passing as this tipping point where nothing was the same, but you already kind of see him going in that direction during Graduation, that things are going to get darker. I feel like 808s and Heartbreak would have been an album that he made. Like it would have been in a similar vein, I think, regardless. Like something about celebrities starting to steal his soul from him. It's just also tied into the fact that his mom passed away and it became even darker. But then you look at My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is just saying my life has become a fucking nightmare. And I'm like indulging in it. Like I've just become like the worst version of myself, this hyperbolic version of myself who will save me, who will survive in America, that encourages people to behave this way. And then Kim comes into the picture. Like in the time between My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus, Kim enters the picture. And even though Yeezus is arguably the darkest sounding album, it ends with some brightness and some hope.
It's a build to the brightness.
Yeah, that's what Kim represented in Kanye's life. Like the hole that he felt himself to be in is where that album starts, and the place that he felt himself potentially going with Redemption is how it ends. And then we go into the life of Pablo, and you get that balance between darkness and lights. And then you get that slew of albums in Ye, Kids See Ghosts, Jesus is King, which is Kanye really rediscovering himself, getting back to himself. And all of that is due to the support he was getting from his family, having his family. And then now here we are with Donda and capturing the end of that. But yeah, Kim was such an important arc through like this whole journey. So yeah, to have a song like this that's kind of getting into some of that and the highs and lows of that and the back and forth of that.
I mean, also just we talk about it all the time. The women on Kanye's songs and on the albums and what they represent, they've always ended up representing like what he ultimately wants from fame, from music, from himself, like this connection he's trying to form, reaching this level that's fulfilling and takes you to a better place. And women have always kind of represented that struggle, you know, like thinking of Graduation, where he's moving on from Chicago, and Chicago is personified by this woman. 808s and Heartbreak, like he cannot find comfort and happiness in this fame life, and all of the women on the album end up representing that. And then, of course, My Beautiful Twisted Fantasy, like everything you were talking about, this detachment, this dive into fame and kind of the ugliness that can represent. But literally on that album, we have a poem that he wrote to Kim before they were together on Lost in the World. And it becomes this literal hope, this call to Kim to say, like, you are what I need. Like, you are the woman that I've been searching for in my music that's going to put me in that right direction. And that's what makes Bound 2 so important. Like, that it represents that step for Kanye. That's why Kim's presence on the Life of Pablo is so crucial to him becoming the man he always wanted to become, and being on that path to make Ye and Kids See Ghosts and Jesus Is King. Like, he had to become centered before he could work on himself, and Kim was such an important part of that.
Yeah. And you can't be that important to someone if you're just a fling, you know? So that next line turned out to be more than just a fling, huh? Like, what seemed like it might just be the short term, you know, we'll hook up for a little bit and then see what happens, actually became one of the most talked about relationships and well-known relationships in the world. And 4 kids, and both of them becoming billionaires. Like, wild
stuff.
Yep. And then we get 3 hours to get back from Palm Springs, huh? Who you know spend an hour at Walgreens, huh? You know you'll always be my favorite prom queen, even when we in dad shoes or mom jeans. And so there's a little bit of controversy with these middle lines, like 3 hours to get back from Palm Springs and who you know spend an hour at Walgreens. There's going to be a group of people, and already were if you just check like the Genius annotation, who take this in the most like cynical and salacious way possible, in terms of reading it like 3 hours to get back from Palm Springs. Like, you're saying you spend an hour in Walgreens. Like, I don't think I trust you. Like, no one takes an hour at Walgreens. It's not a convenience store, right? They call themselves a pharmacy, but it's just a glorified convenience store that has a pharmacy. And you go in there, you grab something, and you come out. You're saying you spent an hour there? I don't think so. Like, what was really going on? You were at like Tim's, right? Like, you were with Tim, and just the suspicion of cheating, right? That's what some people think that's getting at. It's like Kanye saying that Kim cheated, and like, oh no, like, you know, we knew that this was a thing that was happening, and this is where he finally points it out, which seems like a huge jump. Like, I get the suspicion, but saying that it's like a declaration of cheating feels just like a bridge too far. We know that in the time that of the first Donda track lists, right, in July of 2020, it happened to be when Ye said that he was trying to get a divorce because, you know, like, Kim took a meeting with Meek Mill at a hotel, and like Meek was cool about it and didn't do anything because he respects Ye, but Ye was mad at Kim because he felt Kim was trying to like cheat on him with Meek Mill. And he never ended up like straight up saying that he was wrong for that, but pictures came out that showed Kim and Meek at the hotel rooftop for lunch with another like person that's known in charity giving. She's like a fundraiser, or owns like an organization that Meek had been in talks to work with, and that Kim had also been in talks to work with. So it was like a working lunch between these three because they wanted to all like work on a charity foundation together, kind of thing. So it seemed like the kind of thing where Ye's paranoia about Kim having lunch with this other guy maybe got the best of him rather than anything actually happening. So that's the other way to read it, instead of it being like this declaration that she cheated, just coded in a way of like, did it really take you 3 hours to get back from Palm Springs? That it's just his suspicion. Like, oh, it took you 3 hours to get like back from Palm Springs. Did you spend an hour in Walgreens? without really any substance. And I could also see somebody like feeling that way. Like Ye is critical of himself at times, right? He talks about, I can't hear myself drink, and then cussing at your baby mama. I guess that's why they call it custody. So it could just be in that line of like, I was paranoid, I was drinking too much, I was talking rudely to my baby, like the mother of my children. So it's more him being like self-critical rather than actually critical of Kim. Palm Springs is 2.5 hours from Hidden Hills, where Ye and Kim lived. So it taking 3 hours isn't that crazy to think about, especially with LA traffic. And then spending an hour in Walgreens, sometimes you just don't know what shampoo you want. But but it's also like, Kim did do that interview with David Letterman where they went to CVS and they spent like an afternoon in CVS, like looking at things and being amused by things, because it was like the idea being, let's take Kim Kardashian, who is grown up with money, has always like had the finer things, and put her into a CVS and see what she thinks of like the products, the choice. And they made this whole like skit out of it, which is funny in a capitalistic sort of way, but not funny to a lot of people in terms of just like, that's our daily life. And to her, it's just like a comedy bit. But it could be a reference to that, which happened in October of 2020 when like this song still would have been worked on. It was a CVS rather than a Walgreens, but CVS and Walgreens are kind of the same thing, right? And Walgreens goes better with Palm Springs in terms of flow. So it could be that. But then also, there's just a very nice way of looking at it, which is how you were looking at it.
Yeah, I was like so surprised. I can't even believe I clicked the Genius annotation for this, because like most of the time I feel like I don't need to click the annotation if I get the line. But it was very surprising to see this annotation and so many people upvoting this idea that Kanye's talking about her cheating. Maybe it's because, and look, like you've described all the reasons, like there could be sound evidence that this is what the line means. People are really wrapped up in social media and like the daily lives of Kim and Kanye. Like they really like talking about this stuff and believing this stuff and debating this stuff. I, on the other hand, am not. I'm just looking at like, I know Kanye the artist. I'm looking at the lyrics. I'm thinking about the narrative of the album, and I'm thinking about where he's at this point in the album. And to me, that kind of cynicism here doesn't really make sense. It doesn't fit. Maybe you're right. Like maybe it's aligning with I can't hear myself drink. Like maybe Kanye is being self-aware here. But if he is, like there's nothing to clue us in that he is being self-aware. Like I can't hear myself drink is the first moment of that, I think. And when we first get any sort of negativity, to me, this fits right in with just like how nice this song is. And like, oh, you really meant a ring, huh? More than just a fling, which launches us into like, this is more than a fling. This is a relationship. And now I'm going to discuss like these quirks about you. Like 3 hours to get back from Palm Springs, huh? Like who spends an hour in Walgreens? Like Kim does. Like when you go to, I almost picture these lines as like, we were driving back from Palm Springs, and Kim wanted to stop at Walgreens. And God, we spent an hour there. But it wasn't necessarily like I'm so annoyed by her. Like I think it's adorable that you spend an hour in Walgreens. Like you can't decide what you want. Like it's because maybe I'm extrapolating a little bit. I'm just like applying like things I feel like I've experienced with my wife, But to me, that's more reflective of what it's like to be with somebody you love and you're married to just suddenly introduce this idea of paranoia. Like it doesn't fit with either the flow of the song or the flow of the album. Like we're way past Believe What I Say and like that version of Kanye. To me, this song is much more about being constructive and self-reflective. And it's not that you can't be critical of Kim, but to like full on accuse her of cheating randomly at the first couple lines in the song, like I don't get that at all.
And I mean, somebody might point to like, he says, huh, right? It says it sarcastically. And it's like, well, he said like, you really meant a ring, huh? Like more than just a fling, huh? It wasn't condescending or critical or skeptical at those points. It was just kind of like funny, right? Like,
Yeah.
you really meant a ring, huh? Like, more than just a fling, huh? Like, it's something that you smile about.
Yeah.
Kris Jenner, I saw somebody post, has a house in Palm Springs, and it's a place that like Kim might travel to and from a decent amount, and maybe make Ye travel to and from a decent amount. So it might just be one of those things where it's like, you want me to travel 3 hours back and forth from Palm Springs?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that because I love you. Like, it could
Yeah,
be
right.
like a little annoyed at the same time as also being like, yeah, but like, as you said, this is what you do when you're in a relationship. Even like some of
Yes.
the annoying things are great. Like, spend an hour in Walgreens. Like, yeah, it's frustrating, but I also love you for it because it's such like a
Yeah.
you thing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really like that way of looking at it as well, because then it goes like, you'll always be my favorite prom queen, which like, Kim is kind of a prom queen, and getting that idea of like being a little snooty's not the right word, but the idea of like being queenly, being royal, and
Right.
not knowing how to operate in Walgreens kind of thing, having that contrast between like Walgreens and like being a little bit of a queen, a little bit of a diva is funny. Like, he's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
love
poking
that.
fun at it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think you basically said it. Like, when you're with somebody long enough, and you do have these things. I feel like the more immature, like early relationship thing to do is to be annoyed by all these things. Whenever you're annoyed of somebody, you're just annoyed that they do things you wouldn't, or they're things that you aren't. And
Yeah.
Kim is totally that for Kanye. Like, she is kind of a prom queen. She was always popular, always had money, and that can kind of seemingly that separates her from Kanye. But Kanye's acknowledging it and using it as like their connection. Like, I like these things about you.
Yeah. Like, it's cute. It's endearing. Like, there are things I love about you. And then he goes from like favorite prom queen, even when we in dad shoes or mom jeans.
Say that line all the
Which-
time.
It's pretty catchy. And like the dad shoes, I mean, it could be as specific as the fact that like the Yeezy 700s are considered dad shoes, right? And like, mom jean fashion is something that like Kim has been wearing. But I think really what it's getting at is like, you're a prom queen when you're a teenager, and like you're young, and you still have all your like pomp, and you're trying to show yourself off, versus being like a mom and dad. You're older, you're a little more like function over form at that point. Though I don't think Ye would ever argue about function over form, but he made dad shoes cool because he wanted to wear dad shoes, right?
Yeah.
But you just have that like span of time. The same thing with like, give me a ring. Oh, you really meant a ring. Like, you have that flash from like the first call to getting married, and now you have this like time from being young and like the prom queen to being older together. And I just like the span of time. They essentially like in some ways matured together over the last, they started dating in 2012.
12? 11?
Yes. So 9 years. They were like, Ye would have been 34, 35 when they got together, and now he's 44.
Yeah.
So they like matured a lot over the last decade together. So I think that's kind of what that's getting at.
Really just makes me think of that Mom Jean sketch on SNL. Have you seen that?
Yes, but I'm blanking on the details. I know I remember it.
It's just like, it's back when Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were on the show. Go
Yeah.
look it up if you haven't seen it. It's great.
Yeah, they did some good ones. And then we finally get that switch, right? It goes from like, even when we in dad shoes or mom jeans, too many complaints made it hard for me to think. So there were a lot of things that Kim was upset with Ye about, and his response was, would you shut up? I can't hear myself drink. Essentially saying that like her criticisms, the thing that she was upset about, instead of listening to it and responding or trying to work on it, he just wanted her to be quiet. He turned to alcohol. He was avoiding the issues. It seems to place some of the blame on himself here for how things went.
Yeah. And acknowledging a darker time in his life, because part of this is, I feel like he's gonna get into soon, just like not being present and like him being in Wyoming and like how important it was for him to move away from Los Angeles, this place that's just filled with pop culture and this desire to be famous. Like he wanted to get away from all that and just like focus on himself, and that led to a lot of like divide between them. And it seems like anyway that drinking was a way for Kanye to cope, to push himself in the right direction. He thought, you know, he would have Grey Goose and orange juice in the morning, and he realized at some point he needed to stop doing that. And it seemed that like he was dealing a lot of his problems in a way he shouldn't have been. So drinking was a way to like push away like these very real problems he had with Kim that at some point he had to face.
Yeah, he actually talked about this in the GQ article that we were referencing a few episodes back, talking about working for the devil for so long. And he said, one day I was in my office working on the Couture collection, and there was some Grey Goose in the fridge, and I was just going to get a daytime drink. And I looked and thought, devil, you're not going to beat me today. That one statement is like a tattoo. I've had a drink since I realized I needed to take it day by day, but I never owned up or was even told, hey, you're a functioning alcoholic. People have called me a crazy person. People have called me everything, but not a functioning alcoholic. And I would be drinking orange juice and Grey Goose in the morning. So, yeah. And it seems like he has resumed drinking at times. That was in the middle of 2020. I think clearly from the Drink Champs interview, he was drinking. And then it seemed like in the video when he was partying with Drake that they were drinking, I would assume. So yeah, it definitely feels like something that he's having some struggles with, but that definitely reached like its darkest points during this, or was something that he was turning to rather than actually having these conversations with Kim and trying to work on things with Kim.
Yeah, it's a great line that really, it marks like an important transition, like moving away from this like lovey-dovey, like early relationship stuff to like what a relationship can drive you to do. It's acknowledging the ugliness and the beauty of their relationship.
Yeah, the beautiful beginnings and then the ugly endings. And we get that, like, I can't hear myself think, the play on that, like, I can't hear myself drink. So he's playing on that common phrase. I don't think it's not an idiom, but a phrase that you're used to hearing. And then we used to do the freak like 7 days a week, which is getting at kind of like a common issue in relationships that are starting to shrivel up, is that the physical activity starts to shrink as part of the growing distance and the emotional aspects. It's the best collab since Taco Bell and KFC. So yeah, just kind of like thinking back, and now we're like jumping back and forth, right? We had the nice beginning, and then we get to more of the critical 3 lines, and then saying like, oh, our collab, which is kind of an interesting way of talking about their relationship, right? Because it was like, it was love, it was marriage, it's like being parents together, and then just saying it was a collab, we were just collaborating. Maybe me overthinking the word, but it's the best collab.
I think that's a good way of thinking of it, because I feel like they helped each other define their brands a little bit, you know? Like for Kanye, at least, just from a more personal standpoint, him becoming the kind of man he wanted to become. But Kim, like her brand became a lot more focused, you know? And like I feel like they just helped each other in that way. And like thinking of it of a collab is, again, very adorable to me. I might start thinking of my relationship with my wife that way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where somebody could take it like, oh, a collab feels so hollow in terms of relationship. And it's like, well, no, not really. Like, you can help each other, like, grow personally and professionally, which, yeah, you're saying they did very much. Kanye was pretty instrumental in Kim's fashion. He was helping with Skims. He was helping in other, like, connections that she was making and has used in the aftermath. And then I think she was also helping like bring some touch and focus and adding her expertise and network to everything he was doing. Yes. And then Taco Bell's and KFC's, two fast food brands that actually were owned by the same company. So in the 90s, it started popping up. Like you'd have all these buildings that were joint Taco Bells and KFCs. The building would essentially be split down the middle, and you could either walk in the left door to go to Taco Bell or the right door to KFC, which was pretty funny to see. Didn't they also have them like it was A&W and Long John Silver's or something?
Yep. And Pizza Hut and Burger King, I think.
Oh God.
It's funny. I went to a Taco Bell / KFC in Iceland. Like these things are everywhere. I think it was Taco Bell and something, but I think it was KFC.
Yeah. KFC has like a pretty big, it was the most popular like American brand in Australia by far.
Oh, they're giant. They're worldwide. And you know what I found out? This is totally random. What fast food restaurant do you think has the most locations in the world?
Subway?
It is Subway. How'd you know that?
I worked at a Subway in Australia.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they have like, and it's by like a pretty wide margin. Like they have so many locations. It's crazy.
Yeah, though they're starting to close down here in Austin. I've seen like 4 or 5 Subways like actually close shop, and I think that's the first time in my life I've ever seen a Subway like close.
Oh wow. Well, it is Austin. The standards are higher there.
Yeah, a KFC also closed. Like all the fast food restaurants that were kind of on South Lamar shut down.
So maybe someday we'll be in a fast foodless society.
Could you imagine? Or at least
No.
like it would be local fast food rather than like national chains.
Right. Gosh, that would be bizarre.
It's like, have you ever had Torchy's tacos? No, but I've had Pete's Gorditas. You're like, what? Okay, so the best collabs in Taco Bell and KFC, and just referring to that like style of joining those two companies that seem so distinct and would usually have their own like buildings, sharing a building and location, and the way that would up you imagine business. Otherwise, why else would they be doing that? And then we go from that to talk to me nicely, don't come at me loud, which is now like Kanye was the one that was like, I can't hear myself drink, like would you shut up? And now he's just saying like, talk to me nicely, don't come at me loud. Like that's him now feeling like maybe he's, what's the word? Like he's not the one being the aggressor in the situation now. Like he's kind of the one being like, hey, I'm sensitive here. Like, could you not be like yelling at me the way that you are?
Yeah, it's going back and forth a little bit. Like him drinking can't help the situation, and her talking loudly can't help the situation.
Yeah. Like, don't come at me loud. Like, just talk to me nicely. You're starting to see the miscommunication start to occur, right? Like, she's frustrated with him drinking, so she's yelling at him, but then he's like drinking because he doesn't like how she's talking to him, or also how she's not talking to him.
Yeah, it makes you think of Wouldn't Leave, and like how like Kim called him and was in a tizzy because of all the shit he said on TMZ, and like this is gonna ruin us. Like it's interesting to think of like Kim and Kanye having fights like that. Like you don't even like we're so removed from like their personal life and like what these kind of normal things that couples go through do all the time. That like they went through a lot.
Yeah, it's funny to think, because you just think about like all the times you just see them walking the red carpet or smiling or like laughing in photographs. To them, they probably had some barn burners. And then it goes from kind of this disagreement, right? Like he's drinking too much, like she's maybe being kind of cruel in what she's saying, to him pointing out the fact, you had a Benz at 16, I could barely afford an Audi. Like, you're 16 years old and you have this like fancy car and I could barely afford, which of all the cars to pick, I don't know how great, like I typically think of Audis being on the same level as a Benz.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah. So him saying I could barely afford an Audi, I wondered if he could have been talking about like an Audi home, which is something that he does on Crack Music and also Kids See Ghost on Reborn. They were just juvenile like detention centers in Chicago. And he mentions how kids would like be put into the home, and like I wondered if it was maybe some kind of like clever reference back to like Chicago and like kind of the struggles in Chicago, but that also feels like a big reach to me. And then it's just like, I guess he might have just been saying he could barely afford getting a really nice car.
Like he was good at saving money. He had quite a bit saved up, and it was just enough for an Audi. Juxtapose that with Kim, who was rich her entire life and at 16 was just given a Benz. Like maybe that's what Kanye's saying.
Maybe, but it still feels like of all the things to point out, like a pretty, it would be like you had a Benz at 16 while I was like riding my bike away from gangsters. Like I don't like, I was giving haircuts to afford like records. Like,
right.
There seems like there could have been something, but he wants to get the rhyme with like about me. So you get Audi.
Yeah.
And then without me. So you're getting that flow. But it's just like of all the juxtapositions or contrasts, that's a pretty weak one to compare like having a Benz to barely affording an Audi.
It's the only question I want to ask Kanye.
The only one. Like, you know, for the price of an Audi, you could have you could have purchased 2 Ford Focuses, 2 Foci.
Yeah. And think about all the money you would have saved in the long run because they're so fuel efficient.
Exactly. So it's like he could afford to buy a car. It's a line that so in summation, it's either the line's deeper and we haven't figured out what the reference is and we'll one day be like, "Oh, that's what it's doing. What a great line." Or it's just a little superficial and sloppy, and that happens. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like not every line is going to be like Einstein level.
Yeah, I will say that before today, I'd never really thought about the fact that an Audi is expensive. Like I just like the flow of the line so much that I bought into it. So it kind of worked on me. Like if you don't notice, who cares?
I noticed immediately.
I've
always cared. I have always cared. And then there's something like Kim and Kanye are 3 years apart. So it's like when she was 16, Ye was 19. So it could be like, I mean, at that point, he was already starting to sell beats. He dropped out of college. Right. Maybe. Like he's just saying like, I was at a point where like, I just wasn't comfortable yet. And you were already comfortable.
I guess ultimately, if you ignore the Audi thing, he's drawing a line between them. Like you've always had it easy, and I've had to work for everything. And it's a kind of one of those things I feel like you can say in a relationship that you later apologize for. Like, sorry, I was a dick earlier. You know, like I said to say that really isn't fair to you.
Yeah, because can you really blame her for how she grew up, right?
Yeah,
like that's just. It seems like one of the easy things to throw in her face.
Yeah.
But still is a true thing. How are you going to try to say sometimes it's not about me? So essentially he's just saying like, you've had it easy, I've had to work, and how are you going to try to say sometimes it's not about me? Which could get at the fact that like, you know, she's upset about something and he's like, what, you're mad at me? And she's like, not everything's about you. There's those times, I think when you're with someone that's I don't know how I want to phrase this. I've just heard it in fights before. It's that cliche where you hear somebody say like, not everything's about you. Like just because I'm upset doesn't mean it's about you. Like just because I'm like, not everything has to do with you all the time. But Ye's saying like, how could you say that it's not about like,
it's always about Kanye. Like, that's so funny because you could almost see where she's coming from on that, like thinking of TMZ or thinking about that presidential rally where he talked about North and like kind of spilling his guts about that. In those moments, he is doing it for himself. Like he's being vulnerable. He's expressing something that he hope people can connect to. I mean, that's the point of art, to making music, you know, to influence and motivate and by reflecting on yourself. So it probably is crazy to him for her to say, like, it's not always about you. Like, yeah, it is. Like, that's why I'm Kanye West. Like, that's why I'm so successful. That's why people love me, because like I'm always pushing myself and exposing myself, you know?
Phrasing.
Yeah. I'm just going to leave that right there.
Yeah, just let it hang.
Yeah. Oh, careful if you're phrasing, Chris.
Yeah, that's gets at the flip side of, because I was just thinking about it in terms of like, you know, Kim's feeling a certain way and Ye's like, is this something I did? Is this something I did? But it could also be saying like, hey, you're so focused on like yourself and what you're doing in these situations. Like sometimes you need to take the focus off of you and think about like me, think about our kids, think about other people. And he's just like, I am. Like, what do you mean? Like, say you're trying to say I'm doing this for myself? Like, that there are things that are like, it's not always about me, but I'm doing all of these things for everyone else. Like, what I do is important. Just kind of that aspect to it.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know what I would do without me, which is such a Kanye line.
Very.
But then also gets at the idea, right? Like Kim's essentially saying like, how are you going to say sometimes it's not about me? So you're already thinking about like, you're saying I'm not always on your mind, but I don't know what I would do without me. It kind of hints at the fact that they're getting divorced, right? Like you could read it as, oh, we're getting this divorce because, you know, it's not about you, it's about me. Like, it's not you, it's me. And he's like, I don't know what I would do without me. Like, how are you going to like handle things without me?
Interesting. I really just think of it as like, I'm my biggest motivator, you know, again, thinking about Ye and Kitsy Ghost and this self-reflective journey he's had to make himself whole again. Again, I thought about Killing You, these two versions of himself. Like Kanye is important to Kanye. Like he needs himself to be there for himself. Like I feel like that's what these two lines kind of get at together. Like you can't tell me it's not about me, because like, look what I've done with myself. Like look at the places I've gone. It's all because I always inspire myself to get there.
That's very true. I'd like to think that there's some duality to it, but
yeah.
Maybe not. It could just be that. But with like billionaire sports step up to the court, I could kind of read that in terms of, which we'll get into how that can be taken as both like divorce talk and not divorce talk. Like a billionaire sport, you often hear of these like high profile divorces, right? Where people are trying to figure out how to divide up the assets. How are you splitting like everything that you own? And you start hiring these lawyers, you start negotiating like, well, I'll give you the house in Barbados if I get the house in Switzerland, kind of like nonsense. So like step up to the court can be this idea of like, this is the sport that billionaires play. They go into divorce court and start trying to outmaneuver each other and see who wins. Which, following the line, I don't know what I would do without me. It's like, yeah, you're divorcing me. Well, good luck. I don't know what I would do without me. And now you're going to be without me.
Right.
And then they're stepping into the court. But it could also just be, as you're saying, like I motivate myself, and that Kim and Kanye are both billionaires now. So they're able to do like billionaire sport things, which is just buying the resort, right? So instead of just like renting a room as like a rich person or an average person might do, they get to go and just rent an entire resort. Like, we want to be left alone here, so we're going to spend $2 million to buy every room in this place for the week.
Yeah. Which they actually did.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, to be clear, I think the duality is key, because while I do think this album is ultimately, as we discussed earlier, like it's a personal journey. Like Kanye needs to remember to be in tune with himself and be there for himself. But also, anytime a breakup like this is happening and you are, you know, going to court, billionaire sport, like ego creeps in a little bit. Like you have to think about like all the things you brought through the relationship that feel like they're being kicked to the wayside because like all you do now is concentrate on the negative parts, like in the wake of a divorce. So man, I don't know, I would do without me, like cleanly goes into like buying out a resort, and Kanye's just on a bit of an ego trip. I feel like that's okay to introduce in this song and this part of the album. Like, it's not like Kanye doesn't have an ego just because he's in tune with God. Like, he's Kanye. He's going to reflect on all the things that make him awesome, and that's just part of like the dynamic between him and Kim.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, and there's a little bit of that like celebration for what they achieved, right? Like their collabs of Taco Bell and KFC was successful. Like they've reached billionaire status, and like they got to buy the resort together, like buy out the resort. They didn't purchase the resort, but they like bought out. It's like buying all the seats in a movie theater just so you get left alone. But then you get like God got me, baby, God got the children, which to me reads as someone saying like, I'm gonna be okay, right? In the midst of like us breaking up and the divorce, like God has me, like I'm gonna be okay, and God's got the children, they're gonna be okay, everything's gonna be okay. But maybe it's not reading. I just read all of this as kind of like we're getting a divorce.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It just seems like more of a nice Christ-like line to me. Like, no matter what happens with this divorce, like God's got us, like God's got the children. I guess I don't even read it as like got me and the children, and like Kim's not included. Just like God is present in this situation.
Yeah, and things will be okay. Like the devil might run the playgrounds. Like he's got his own little area that he goes and like, and the playground just being like the nightlife, all the like the superficial stuff. But God owns the building. He owns, I guess it's getting into the idea of like what you have the playground like outside the building. So it's like, you know, the devil's got his little space, but God owns like the whole building. Like that's where people live. That's everything else. I find it maybe the weirdest line on the album.
For what reason?
I just think it's I don't think the playground building juxtaposition matches all that well.
I guess the way I was thinking of it is like the devil run the playground. Like you think of it as like, it's not like someone owns that playground. Like you think of a kid running the playground or something. Like you dominate the space, and you're kind of like, maybe it's a bully on the playground or something like that. Like there seems something very juvenile about it. That's juxtaposed with like owning a building. Like that's legit. Like a lot of people live there. Like you're in charge of a lot of lives. So I guess I see what you're saying. Like juxtaposing playground and building is strange, but maybe because it flows so well that I didn't even notice.
I mean, putting it in terms of ownership works. Like there's something about running a playground, which is just like, you know, you're the head of the lunchroom. Right. Which like you may have authority in this small location, but you don't actually own anything. Like you're not actually building anything. You're not actually like, the scope and scale of your power is very like minimal in comparison to like owning something, owning a building. It's just, for some reason, a building feels at once like too small and too specific to me. Like I feel like it could be like God run the world or God own the world, or it feels like it should just be like a little bigger than a building.
Sure.
Like God owns the block, God owns the city.
Maybe, yeah.
Like who owns the other building? I guess there's just one building in this world. I'm being too pedantic about it.
That's another line I say all the time, so I'm on board, obviously.
And then we get Time and Silence, a Luxury, which I guess might be getting into the idea of like when you have a family, like having time for yourself and having just like quiet is a luxury. But then especially when you're in like a relationship that's starting to kind of tear apart at the seams a little bit, time and silence can be a luxury as well, since there might be like a lot of arguing back and forth, which ties back to the too many complaints made it hard for me to think. Would you shut up? I can't hear myself drink, and talk to me nicely. Don't come at me loud. There's a lot of emphasis on volume and vocals, which comes back to the idea of silence, and silence is a luxury.
I read into this a little bit, but I really took time and silence as a luxury as Kanye talking about being able to escape to Wyoming and get away from kind of how manic it can be to be in LA and be part of this life Kim's been a part of her entire life. Like when you sign up to marry Kim, like you're part of like a giant brand now that everybody could see on E and everything. So being able to escape to Wyoming was important for Kanye and probably became the root of a lot of the tension in their relationship, and him not being there as much as Kim wanted him to be there, not being as present with the children. Like I kind of wonder if that was what was driving a lot of what was separating them, and that's why we get to a line like this. Like the line kind of comes out of nowhere, and maybe it's Kanye saying like, I needed this, like I almost needed this to save our relationship.
Yeah, like I was looking for time in silence, which is why I went out to Wyoming, but the irony of that would be that going out to Wyoming like that would increase the amounts of frustration that Kim is feeling.
Yes.
And result in less time with her and less silence because she'd be so frustrated.
Right.
Which then leads into cussing at your baby mama. Guess that's why they call it custody, which has more implications of divorce, because in divorce you start to figure out who has custody of the kids, right? And it makes it feel like in this case they're maybe debating custody, and Kanye is like cursing or cussing at Kim in that way, or at least like they're fighting to the point where he's actually like swearing, and the idea that he's like they're fighting in this way is what's leading to the divorce, which is leading to the custody stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the same way that like a ring led to a ring, like cussing leads to custody.
Yeah.
And then we go back to God got us, baby. God got the children. The devil run the playground, but God owned the building. So it's like you go from something that's kind of like hopeful and thoughtful to something that's like much more stark and severe, to back to the hopeful, thoughtful, God got us, everything's going to be okay. Like, the devil stuff is happening, but like God owns the building.
It's a cool, just thinking about the melodic flow of the song and how it goes from this light rapping, like conversational rapping Kanye's doing, and like switching into like these slower parts, like time and silence is a luxury, and like there's more of a beat and a pause, and it's a slow build to where he's going to be singing at the end. It all feels like a gradual build of like, I guess, God coming in and Kanye letting go and realizing things are actually ending and becoming more vulnerable. Like musically, I feel like it starts to like it's heading in that direction. So it isn't that surprising to me that he brings in the God talk here again.
Yeah. It does have that like back and forth dynamic to it, right? Like, which goes to the back and forth aspect of the relationship. Starting to feel like but you came here. So, okay, he repeats time and space is a luxury. So that whole section kind of repeats and says, but you came here to show that you still in love with me. So we go from the cussing at your baby mama in the aftermath of that first, like God owned the building, time and silence is a luxury, to now saying you came here to show that you still in love with me, which, despite everything that we've been through, despite all the ups and downs, like you're here, which we'd assume would be the listening parties, right? Kim showed up at listening party 1, and then she was there at listening party 2, and listening party 2 is where this song like premiered, and you had that line, you came here to show that you still in love with me, that felt very poignant, of like, oh man, like look at that, like, yeah, especially because he still had never abandoned your family at the second listening party, right?
I think so.
Yes,
Give that DONDA tracklist tracker.
I still have the tracker. Listening party 2. Yeah, never abandon your family. Yeah, because I remember what all the like people were doing during that portion of the song. So it's like it felt like a payoff on that, especially when he got rid of Never Abandon Your Family at the third listening party and it didn't make the album. And then Kim came out in the white dress at the third listening party. It was just like, oh my goodness, they're back together. Everything's like, oh, they do still love each other. There were reports of them going out to Nobu together. But then it seems like whatever, like if she was just being friendly or if maybe like she does still love him, but is it going to like end the divorce? That's still going forward. But now we know that she's dating Pete Davidson. There were just photos that emerged of them holding hands and walking down the street with Pete having just the gigantic grin on his face. Like he can't believe what's going on. But you know, there was hope with this line for a period of time. And maybe that's really what Kanye felt in that moment. I mean, we know on the Drink Champs interview, he talked about how he's going to fight for his family and that the divorce wasn't finalized, or was it that paperwork. So as far as he was concerned, the two of them were still together. That's still his wife. But now it seems like he might be dating someone else as well. This line felt very poignant at the time.
For sure. But gosh, I guess even at the time, the way I felt about it at the time is the way I still feel about it now. Is I never really thought they'd get back together. And this was more representation of like where they were at, that they were still in love with each other in a way that like two people who were together for that long would be. Like they love each other, they want to be there for each other, and they want to raise their kids together. And you have to have a loving relationship to do something like that. And that's why Kim showed up to the listening parties. Like, this is a very important album for Kanye. Him dealing with his mom's death, dealing with the divorce, like this new stage in his life, like Kim is there for him. And so that's how I always read the line.
Yeah, kind of like a mature, like, yeah, we still love each other. We know we're not going to be together, but we're still going to like support each other, have love for each other, et cetera, et cetera. And we go right from that, like, you still in love with me, to starting to feel like you ain't been happy for me lately, darling, which is quite the contrast.
Yeah. Right.
And you get that like hopefulness of like, you're still in love with me, to like, that's when the change happens with the singing, right? Like,
yeah.
the music kind of shifts a little bit. Like, so, I mean, I think you could maybe kind of make an argument that this was like kind of going back and forth, recapping some of the rise of the relationship, building to this point where like, you know, he's thinking that there's still a chance, and then having like the somber realization that like, no, there's not, is there? Like, this is him kind of accepting where things are.
I mean, the rest of the song is like, this is over. Like, we're no longer together. And him, again, just being scared that, like, I feel like that's the rest of the song. Scared of where this relationship could go moving forward. Like, you're here tonight. I know you're in love with me. But lately, it hasn't feel like you've been happy for me. And I can't have this continue. Like, I need the Kim Kardashian I always knew in my life. Like, there for me, there for my kids. And again, I read it as very vulnerable. Like, this whole last part of the song, he's just begging her to not do this to him, you know?
Yeah, your gun off safety. Like, yeah, that line hits me really hard. The starting to feel like you ain't been happy for me lately, darling. Just a little like darling on there is so like loving, but also a little like pointed.
Right.
Like,
it's intimate in the way, like, only, especially when you've been together that long, like that word means something more.
Yeah. It also has that sadness tied into it, because it's like you're saying it kind of knowing that it's referring to the past and not the present.
Right.
Remember when you used to come around and serenade me? Whoa. Which, the idea, I guess, here that like Kim would sing to Kanye.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think this is Kanye like singing from Kim's perspective, right? Like it's Kim saying like, I feel like you haven't been happy for me lately. Remember when you used to come and like serenade me and now you don't sing to me anymore? And
Yeah. It could be literal. I guess I just took it as more of like when you serenade someone, you're kind of like, you're being very poetic about them and talking about all the nice things about them. And maybe that's all he means. Like you used to like be so nice to me and like comfort me and like say these great things about me, and you don't do that anymore.
that also makes a lot of sense.
Although I like the idea of Kim serenading Kanye.
Like, and it could be something where she used to like sing to him a little more often. Remember, she did put out a musical single. She did have attempts at a singing career, so maybe
we're trying to forget
but
about
I guess
that period of her life.
Yeah. But I guess it's gone different in a different direction lately. Yeah, so like, you know, things were good, but different directions, which recaps kind of this whole song. It's showing like the direction they were going and the direction they went, the direction they were going, the direction they went. And then we get that line, trying to do the right thing with the freedom that you gave me. Like, you have given me, like, you've ended this relationship and that's freed me up to spend my time in other ways. Like, and I'm trying to do the right thing with that. I'm trying to be good with that. I'm trying to like not be indulgent with that. I'm trying to like be responsible with that and do the best with this freedom. And he kind of phrases it as like, it's freedom that you gave me, which gets to some of the things that Kim was saying, like in the Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It was just like, Kanye wants to travel all the time. He wants to go to this place. He wants to go do this. And she's not someone that always wants to get up and go do those things and be gone for the time period that Ye wants to be gone. She felt in some ways that she couldn't keep up with him and that she was holding him back in some ways. So I feel like he's probably addressing that. Like, you gave me my freedom to like go and do these things without having to worry about how you're feeling about it, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to try and do the right thing with it.
Oh, interesting. That, I mean, you're totally right about that, but I actually never read the line like that. I assumed he was just talking about the solace she gave him, the putting him in the right direction, like finally making him feel whole again, like being this person he always wanted to find in his life, and he finally had it, and that gave him this freedom. And she gave that to him. Like, she set him on this new path that he would have never found without her. And so regardless if they're together or they're not together, like, she gave him this freedom. And I'm so grateful that you found that for me.
I could see that. Like, definitely, like, you've helped me feel like, I mean, that was something that he was getting at on like Kids See Ghosts, right? Like, I'm free. And
right.
Like, I feel like it was, part of it was getting into some of like the Life of Pablo stuff, though. In looking at the relationship ending, I'm also thinking about like Bound 2 and the idea that they were like bound together on that song, and you kind of have the implication of like shackles when you're bound to each other, and now it's like, now we're like unbound, like, we're freed.
I like what you said about it, though. I think it has a dual meaning to me now, and that makes it hit a little harder, because while it's sad to have a divorce, like, when you're heading in different directions from each other and divorce is the right thing, like, you do have a freedom now. Like, you now have this room to explore yourself in a way you wouldn't have before. So, like, you know, it's that weird feeling of finding happiness in death. Like, it's sad that someone dies, but like, there's a next step now you can take. Like, there's a new path for you, and these things come from tragedy and heartache. Yeah,
I think I've told it on the show, maybe even during the season, but when my dad passed away, just feeling that sense of like, I would tell people sometimes that it was like the worst thing that ever happened, but also the greatest gift anyone ever gave me was the awareness that I got from my dad, from him passing away, of just how short life is, how like you shouldn't focus on the pettiness of some things. Like, there's so many simple things that can distract us and take us away from what we actually care about, who we actually want to be. And in the aftermath of him passing, I had such clarity of what those things were in my life, and it caused massive changes in just how I acted and what I cared about, and made me a better person. And I feel like I would have reached that point somewhere down the road, but it would have taken a lot more like wasted time to get there.
Yeah, it's tough to not care about dumb, small shit that doesn't matter.
Right. Says the guy that has tweeted over 100,000 times.
No, we all love that about you, Chris. We like that.
Yeah. Thank you. So we get that, the freedom that you gave me. And then for some reason, this is where the Wheezy tag comes in, the producer tag.
I love it.
Okay.
I think it's just Wheezy out of here. It was there from the beginning, whatever version of the song was that long ago. So like it just stayed in. It was more of like an inside joke or a nod to him.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, he has production credit, right? So it's like,
and writing credit.
Yeah.
Because he's right there.
Wheezy out of here. But then that transitions to your gun off safety, which like, just when it's kind of that sweetness of like, you gave me this freedom, your gun off safety feels a lot more, for lack of a better word, loaded. Like a gun is a weapon. Yeah, there's power there. There's suddenly like a vulnerability on Kanye's end of like, what are you going to do? And then it comes back once again to like, speak first, don't break me. Like, talking becomes a major emphasis once again. Before it was like, you know, would you shut up? Like, your complaints, like, don't come at me loud. And now he's saying like, speak first. Like, your gun's off safety, please. Like, speak first before you break me. Like, can we talk about this? I think. Yeah. But then it's harsh words. You're angry. So she's speaking, but the words are harsh. They're angry, which calls back to like, don't come at me loud. Talk to me nicely. And then we get Ye saying, Lord, don't take me. Oh, which I sing these lines. I find them very like engaging and catchy, but I had never really taken them as seriously as I did when I was reading through this. Yeah. Like that last Lord don't take me feels so sad to me. Yeah. Especially, I mean, we even opened this episode. It's become like a repetitious point that we've made about the idea of gun violence on this album, and how that's been talked about in terms of like street life, gang life, a lot of the environments that Kanye and some of the artists on this album grew up in, and a lot of the reality of hip-hop artists trying to make it out of environments where guns are like an active part of their life, and the pain of that, of how it can take friends from you, loved ones from you, how you can worry about your own life day in and day out. And even once you make it, you still have to worry about what could happen. Mm-hmm. And that came up. It was a major talking point of the Tell the Vision episode. So to go from Jesus Lord, where gun violence is such a focus, to keep my spirit alive. No, to New Again didn't have that focus, but Keep My Spirit Alive had some focus on gun violence. Jesus Lord, of course, then Tell the Vision, then Lord I Need You. It's Kim having the gun, mm-hmm. and Kanye having this line of like, Lord, don't take me.
Right. That's heavy.
That's heavy. And it gets at what we were saying, like the way that, was it this episode or was it yesterday? Like where Ye mixes the industry with the personal.
Right.
So you have on pretty much every album, he's managing to connect like larger society to what's going on in the music industry, especially like the hip hop like niche of the music industry to his personal life and tying all of these things together. You see it on Yeezus, you see it on Life of Pablo. Like Life of Pablo ends with him talking about, how do I bring God into my nightlife? How do I bring God into hip hop and music and what I'm doing as a celebrity and all of this? So to now be talking about like violence in society and how violence affects hip hop and hip hop artists, to now violence in his own like home between he and his wife in this metaphoric way of like, she has the gun and can essentially like end him. Oh my goodness.
I mean, her words are the gun, basically.
Yep. And
it's not even
she
like
fires.
It's not some situation where like, oh, you can expose me to everybody. It's very personal moment. Like speak first. Like, don't break me. Like, don't use harsh words. Don't speak to me loud. Talk to me. I can tell that you're angry. I can tell I've done all these things to make you angry. Like, please talk to me. Please be patient with me. And then you're right to connect that to the gun violence that we've heard throughout the album. And then, Lord, don't take me. Like, her words could literally kill me. If we can't mend this, like, it'll ruin me. That's really what he's saying here at the end. And that's where the song ends. It's, wow.
It's, which gets back to like all the divorce stuff, right? Like, I feel like this is essentially saying like, you know, your gun's off safety. You've brought like the divorce onto the table. And I'm saying like, please don't pull the trigger. And she still hasn't technically, but it seems like she definitely will.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about the divorce thing, but I don't even know if I read it that specific, because to me the divorce seems inevitable in the song and in Kanye's life. I feel like he's speaking more like, I can't lose you in my life. Like, we're clearly going in different directions and this is happening, but like, I still need you. Like, you're still the mother to my children. I can't lose my Donda figure here on earth. You please stay with me.
Yeah, I can see both. Like, I feel like that plays into, like, it doesn't have to be as specific as the divorce. It can transcend, like, can we at least like keep a good relationship between us? It just kind of narratively reads cleaner to me as like a build up from like, we started dating, we got a ring. It starts with a ring and it kind of ends with divorce.
Right.
So you're coming full circle with like, you really meant a ring. So she's like putting the ring on. And then essentially at the end, it's getting at the idea of taking the ring off.
Yeah, that makes sense. But
I get what you mean too. I feel like it's one of those things that's vague enough that multiple interpretations apply. Right. And it's just like how specific you want to get can vary.
But man, Lord, don't take me, like turning to God at the very end. It's just so heavy and so poignant on an album where, like, I mean, he has a connection with God from the get-go. We've had Jesus as king. We know he's kind of mended that relationship, and he's now preaching the word of God, and he's on the ultralight beam. You know, he's heading in that direction, but he still needs these close, intimate moments with God. Like, he needs God to be there for him in these roughest moments, because who else does he have? Like, God's always going to be there for you.
And I don't think it, I mean, do you read it as him saying like, Lord, don't take me, like, God, don't take me, like, stop this? Or do you read it as like, Lord, like, don't let her like take me out in this way? Like, is he asking God to stop? Is he asking God to stop the action that God's taking? Or is he just calling out to God and saying to Kim, don't take me?
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more of the latter. I could see it all working, but again, like you bringing up the gun violence and this idea that her words are this gun and like she can end him. That's again why, like, you can read it as the divorce, but like her words could cut into him so deeply. Like, if she says anything, like, if she suddenly doesn't see him in the same light that she always has, that they can't have that same kind of loving relationship that a mother and father would have moving forward. Like, if she does this to him, like, he's gone, like the Lord has taken him.
Yeah, where I just read it divorce way.
Well,
But yeah,
I think
like,
it makes sense that way.
yeah. Both ways, it's that same idea. Like, she has the power in the situation to either say like, I want a divorce, and that's like the bullet, or just say like, you're done. Like, I never want to see you again. Like, stay away from, what is it? What's the meme line? Don't talk to me and don't talk to my child.
Yeah.
There's something with that. But if she was just like, yeah, I never want to talk to you again, like, that could be the bullet, right? There's all of these things that she could say, but the point is, she's like serious, and there's something that she could say that could essentially like break his heart to the point of not recovering.
Right.
Which is fitting, because when we talk about like make me new again, like rebirth, like we talk about praise God, like where he says like coming out the graveyard and back to life, and come to life is the penultimate song on this album. Like, for this being in a way a kind of like death, and then to have like rebirth, or like this is what's needed for purification. You have this confrontation, like he admits to what's happening, understands what's happening, he dies in this way, and this is what kind of purifies him to allow him to start to move forward into the next chapter of his life.
Right.
I think it makes that final line like so narratively compelling, and this song so narratively compelling. That's really cool to me.
Yeah, love it.
So then we get the chorus. Well, Lord, I need you to wrap your arms around me. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Wow.
It's just like that chorus comes back really strong. Wrap your arms around with your mercy. I need you to wrap your arms around me. I give up on doing things my way. And that hits so much harder.
Yeah.
Right? Because you hear it the first time and you're just like, sounds good. And then you get this full story of essentially like how his relationship ended. And he's like, I give up on doing things my way. And you're like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Especially combined with thinking about remote control and giving up control of your life to God. Like, in the wake of the divorce, like, it's something much bigger than yourself. Like, just your presence here on earth, your legacy, you have to give that up if you want to move forward. Like, you have to be trusting the God that he's going to guide you in the right direction in this moment where you think like you're being taken out, like there's nothing left.
Wow. What a song.
Great song.
Anything else?
No. So we got just 3 songs left. Wow. What a ride it's been.
I know. I feel like we've discovered a good amount. I'm excited for the recap episode, mostly because that means that we're done. But then also because I feel like there's gonna be it's gonna be fun to compare where we started to where we ended.
Yeah, a lot of revelations around the way. I mean, like, God, the album's just so deep and layered. Like, we're discovering stuff in Lord, I Need You, which to me was like the most straightforward song in the album. Like, there's so much nuance and parts of the song that make sense once you look at the album as a whole.
Yeah, right. To where it's already kind of like a cool song just on its own. Like, not necessarily like a catchy song on its own the way that Hurricane is, but it's a unique like album cut. But then when you start to put it in context of the album, just whew.
Man, love it.
Okay then.
Okay. But Pure Souls is next. And on that journey towards Pure Souls, we hope you all come with us, and we hope you stay wavy on that journey.
Keep it loopy.